Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another remastered edition of the lore of League of Legends. Following on from the last time, we're going to be covering once more Bilgewater's most infamous bounty hunter. I present to you the remastered lore of Miss Sarah Fortune, the bounty hunter. Enjoy. There are few who can match Miss Fortune in either beauty and danger. As one of Bilgewater's most infamous bounty hunters, she has built her legend upon a swath of bullet-filled corpses and captured criminals. Like most who rise to notoriety in the salt-encrusted labyrinth of Bilgewater, Miss Fortune has no shortage of blood on her hands. It was not always this way, however. She was once known as Sarah, the beloved daughter of a renowned gun dame who lived peacefully at an isolated island workshop. The young Sarah was always helping her mother in the forge, filling wheel locks, calibrating trigger pulls, or casting custom pistol shot. Her mother's skills were legendary, and her bespoke handguns were often found within the collections of many wealthy nobles. But quite often, these valuable items were often desired by those with more meagre and darker means. One such person was an up-and-coming reaver of Bilgewater named Gangplank. Cocksure and certain of his power, he demanded Sarah's mother fashion a pair of pistols the likes of which no other possessed. A deal was struck, although reluctantly, and a year later to the day, Gangplank returned for his weapons, donning a red scarf face mask. He had no intention of paying for the guns. He was there to take them by force. The newly crafted pistols were masterpieces. Twin hand cannons of pinpoint accuracy, lethality, and exquisite beauty. Sarah's mother declared they were too good for the likes of him after seeing the brutish pirate that Gangplank had become. He became enraged, seizing the pistols and gunning her down before turning them on her husband, and then Sarah herself. And to top it all off, he set the workshop ablaze and smashed both pistols on the ground, declaring that if they were too good for the likes of him, then no one would have them. Sarah survived, awaking in agony with straw-coloured hair that had been stained red with the blood of her mother, and bullets lodged on either side of her heart. She crawled from the burning ruins of her mother's workshop with the broken remains of the two pistols clutched to her bleeding chest. Eventually her body healed, but part of her mind remained behind in that burning workshop, and no amount of soap could wash the vivid red from Sarah's hair. So the story is told, at least. She became forever tormented by waking nightmares and night terrors, but she endured, developing an all-consuming obsession with vengeance. She rebuilt her mother's pistols and learned all she could of the red-masked Reaver, preparing herself for the day when she would be ready to slay him. She took a ship to Bilgewater, and within minutes of setting foot on the crooked timbers of the quayside, she had killed her first man. A drunken pirate with a gallon of Myron's Dark in his gut and a bounty on his head. She shot him in his stupor and dragged his corpse to the bounty board before tearing off a dozen more warrants. Within a week the bounties were all settled, and the criminals who had the misfortune to be hunted by Sarah were either dead or rotting in the cells. She quickly earned herself a reputation throughout Bilgewater, becoming Miss Fortune to inspire fear in those she hunted, and mask her true intent with flamboyant exploits. In the years that followed, the tales of Miss Fortune spread far and wide, each more extravagant than the last. She captured the siren from a captain who learned the hard way what it meant to slip a hand where it wasn't wanted, drowned the master of the Silk Knife Corsairs in a barrel of her own rum, and dragged the insane Doxy Ripper from his lair in the belly of a half-dismembered Leviathan. Gangplank was still too powerful to confront openly, so Miss Fortune spent the years wisely, surrounding herself with a small but loyal group of allies and lovers that she would eventually use to lay her demons to rest. But killing Gangplank would never be enough. She had to humiliate him publicly, and the burning ash of everything that he cared for would satisfy that void. That day had come. Miss Fortune had risked everything to make her opening move against Gangplank, Plots within plots had seen the dead pool blown to nothing more than a flaming wreckage at the docks, and the self-proclaimed king of Bilgewater overthrown. The best thing of all, everyone in Bilgewater had seen him fall, and with Gangplank deposed, every Reaver captain and ganglord in the port city was vying to take his position. The battle for Bilgewater had begun. Bilgewater's White Wharf had earned its name due to the layer of bird feces covering it from end to end, which was only to be expected a resting place for the dead. The people of Bilgewater didn't bury corpses, they simply returned them to the sea. A grave of the sunken dead hung suspended, and Misfortune sat upon an empty crate of Rapture rum at the end of the wharf. Her legs were crossed and a noxious cheroot dangled from her bottom lip. The moonlight cast a weak glow throughout the mist rolling in from the sea, staining the water's scummed surface. Cawing carrion gulls lined every roof on the quayside, which was always a good omen, for they better than any knew the signs of fresh pickings. A shaven-headed man in a drake-scale frock emerged from the narrow debris-choked alleys. He was one of the Painted Brothers, completely inked with clawed serpents, lovers' names, and a record of every boat he'd sunk, every man he'd murdered. His skin was as good as confession as any Misfortune had ever known. He was one of Gangplank's sworn men, and she wanted him dead for it. The warrant wanted him alive, but she was never very good at following instructions. The man drew his sword and ran at her. Within an instant, she drew her pistols and blasted him with both barrels, one through the eye, one through the heart. She'd already begun rehearsing her lie with the bounty pursuers. The fool came at her with his fang sword. What choice did she have? She stood from the barrel and began strolling back to Bilgewater. She knew she'd ought to throw the man's corpse into the water, but the wharf rats and carrion gulls had to eat, right? After all, fresh meat was a rare delicacy on the White Wharf. And that's all I've got for you this time around. Let me know what your thoughts and comments in the section below. Don't forget to leave a like for the video and subscribe to the channel for future updates. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time.